Hello everyone and welcome to the GameTime Sports Show on Duquesne TV, Duquesne Student Radio, and the GameTime Sports YouTube channel. My name is Brendan Flato and I'm excited to bring you today's show. We've got a lot to cover today with topics including some breaking news, a crazy buzzer beater in Philly, Mike Tomlin being traded, a sit-down interview with a college basketball player, and much more. We start today's show with some breaking news. Last Thursday, 26 people were charged in an alleged bribery and point-shaving scheme to fix NCAA men's basketball games, according to the United States Attorney's Office, Eastern Pennsylvania District. 4 teams mentioned in the indictment are members of the Atlantic 10 Conference. Fordham, St. Louis, and LaSalle were among the universities alleged in the bribery and point-shaving scheme. Duquesne was named in the indictment as well twice, as they were opponents in two of the games where the alleged bribery and point-shaving occurred. On Thursday, I had the chance to break the news right here on GameTime Sports and Duquesne Student TV. During this segment, I was able to sit down with 10 Talk Duquesne beat reporter Jack Morgan. Let's check it out. The time is currently 1 o'clock on January 15th, 2026. The college basketball world was flipped upside down this morning by the indictment released coming out of Philadelphia. The indictment details the 20 individuals who are being charged on 1 count of bribery in sporting contests and conspiracy to commit wire fraud, along with 3 counts of wire fraud. I am now joined with Jack Morgan, the Duquesne beat reporter for A10 Talk. Jack, what do you know of the story?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a couple of situations where other A10 teams are involved, but let's talk directly about Duquesne. Duquesne was more so indirectly involved in this. I wouldn't say they're the victim because, as we're going to get to, it was actually these teams trying to tank to lose these games. Here's more on the specifics. Duquesne versus St. Louis at the UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse, February 20th, 2024. Duquesne was favored by over St. Louis by approximately 5 points in first half spread by most sports books in the United States and elsewhere. So before this game, and this is directly from the indictment paper, so I'm not making anything up here. This is actually what is said. For this game, fixers, including Marvis Ferry and Roderick Winkler, and other acting at their direction, placed wagers with various sports books totaling at least approximately $242,000 on Duquesne to cover the first half spread. In the process of fixing this game in place of these wagers, defendants, Fairley, and other fixers communicated via text about the game and wagers. For example, on or about the date of the Duquesne game, defendant Fairley texted a straw bettor, Duquesne first half, bet it. So, on that day of the game, another defendant, and this is the actual player for St. Louis, his name is Bradley Azuero, and Azuero, if you're wondering why he matters in this, other than him being the defendant here, there's a reason they picked him. He appeared in 22 games while starting 21 for St. Louis in the 1 year he spent there. He averaged 12 points and 6.2 rebounds. So there's a reason they went to him. Now, on to that. Duquesne actually did outscore St. Louis 41-27. So if you remember, the line was 5 points. They hit that. So the fixers won their bets. Without the St. Louis players intentionally underperforming in the second half of the game, St. Louis actually played substantially better. They outscored Duquesne that second half 40-39. Duquesne did win that game 80-67. However, that does not matter in this case because they only bet the first half. So now, on to the second part, and perhaps the more wild part of this story, in my opinion, is the Duquesne-Fordham game, and this was 3 days later. So in an entire week, Duquesne had 2 games against teams who had players who were being bet on, abiding in this betting scandal, rather. So, Elijah Gray and his teammates who played for Fordham, it's not confirmed who this teammate is, it's only called person number 4, they attempted to underperform and influence the game as they agreed. Now, both players scored fewer points than their season averages, with Gray scoring 3 points. Now, another caveat to the story, if you were on Twitter, you probably see someone named Ode Gray Sr. that is actually in every one of these comment sections actually pleading his case for his son, saying his son would never do a thing. So if you go on Twitter, A10 Twitter, you're probably going to see him. But that's kind of the wild part of the story because in this game, Duquesne outscored Fordham 32-26 in the first half. But Fordham came back in the second half and won that game 79-67. So, this meant that the fixers who wagered on Duquesne for the full game lost their bets. They were supposed to have Duquesne win. However, here's where it gets wilder. Shortly after the game, defendant Jalen Smith and Elijah Gray, the player, communicated via text concerning the efforts of Gray and person number 4 to fix the game and the failure of the scheme to succeed. Gray told the defendant Smith, "I tried," and noted that the Duquesne players were, quote, "not hooping," end quote, or played poorly, making it harder for Duquesne to cover the spread. Defendant Smith told Gray, quote, "You did your job for sure," end quote, and bemoaned the fact that another Fordham player who was involved in the scheme had an excellent game. Now, that's the stats up on your screen, and Brendan, just give me one guess who you think that one player they were talking about was. You're going to go with Rose, right?
Yeah.
And this is the crazy part about this, is that Duquesne actually was not a victim in either of these, right? They were trying to have Duquesne win. However, they succeeded the first time but failed the second time. So this story is crazy, and there's a lot of others like it. I want to give you one that I just saw, and I do think is pretty crazy, and it comes out of DePaul. And this quote is something that I think is a huge alarm for the entire NCAA. During the game on or about March 5th, 2024, defendant Jalen Smith texted Macabre Etienne to complain that one of the players who was not involved in the point-shaving scheme for DePaul needed to chill the, I can't say the other word, but out. Etienne texted Smith back during the game and assured him that the DePaul players involved in the scheme were keeping the ball away from the player and preventing him from scoring. Defendant Smith responded that if Etienne and the other DePaul players kept to the plan, the bag, or bribe payments, would be on the way. Brendan, this is a huge issue with the NCAA. It's not just 1 or 2 games. I might have thought when the Elijah Gray thing came out, this is wide scale.
Yeah, and it's not just the NCAA. We've seen this recently in the NBA as well. Gambling is becoming a huge problem for collegiate sports. And we're seeing it right now in A10, the NCAA as a whole. And we're seeing it affect Duquesne. But let's be clear here. Duquesne is more of a victim in this, as their name is associated because they were a part of the games being played. They weren't the ones rigging the games. So no fear as a Duquesne fan. They did not do anything wrong, as it's being reported right now on Thursday, January 15th. We're about 1:05 p.m. Local time here. As we know, up to this point, Duquesne did not do anything wrong in this indictment. They are just mentioned because they were the team being played against when Fordham and St. Louis made these bets or were gambling, rigging these games.
Yeah, absolutely. It is something that we will monitor, but as it stands right now, it does not look like Duquesne is going to take any fall for this, as this indictment this is 70 pages, so they're not in any of this. I doubt that there will be more to come out that comes against Duquesne, but it is something to look at because Duquesne is in the NCAA, and if the NCAA is having issues like this, there's a lot of work that needs to be done by the higher-ups to ensure that something like this never happens again, because it can't.
Yeah, and Jack, you report for the A10 Talk. Obviously, you're a beat reporter for Duke specifically, but the A10 Talk covers, obviously, all the teams. So you know a lot about different teams. We also saw LaSalle University mentioned in this. Can you tell us a little bit more about how they were included?
Yeah, LaSalle was in a game against St. Bonaventure. This, actually, I do need to confirm the exact date. However, this was around the same time as the Duke. It was in the same week. I can tell you that for sure. That was the same week that Duquesne and St. Louis and Duquesne and Fordham were being bet on. So this was a wild week for the A10, ironically. And the way it is mentioned and the language in that is basically that they tried to, the fixers, the defendants in this situation, tried to get LaSalle players. They tried to recruit LaSalle players to fix a game between LaSalle and St. Bonaventure. It did not happen. They did not, whether they got them or not, that bet did not hit. The spread, obviously betting on LaSalle to lose, it did not hit. So Clearly, I think what people are saying is that they did not get any LaSalle players to willingly fix the games. And I think that also does give a lot of credit, dude. Fran Dunphy is a great coach, so I'm sure he's
That was
been
not
over that
happening
program.
on Fran's
Yeah,
watch.
exactly. I think we were talking about it before this. I don't think it would. There was a lot of doubt that a team coached by Fran Dunphy would have any involvement in this in a direct manner.
Speaking of LaSalle, Philadelphia school, another Philadelphia school, Temple, the story actually came out of Philadelphia. That's where the indictment was released. Temple University, a couple weeks back, had a similar issue with this. They ended up releasing one of their players. I know this is outside of the A10, but do you have any news related to that as we know of currently? Is there anything related to the Temple scandal that's in this indictment, or is that something separate from the NCAA?
No, this is what I believe to be a direct kind of document in regards to that, because there was on October 29th when Wisconsin men's basketball forward Elijah Gray, he was dismissed from the program, and that raised a lot of alarm bells. That eventually ended up leading to, hey, he was betting on games. But there are more people. But they had not released that until, believe, late last night. January 14th is the exact date. However, it was not until this morning. We really weren't talking about it, and there was nothing being put out about that. But since the onset of this morning and everyone waking up and seeing this, it has been wild. But it is this is what I believe to be a direct result of what happened to Elijah Gray, and this is kind of the huge fallout. He is listed in this indictment document, if I'm not mistaken, pretty close to the top. So certainly it's something that we'll have to monitor going forward. But listen, he's in this, and because of what went down with him, this is now us seeing the entire fallout from this situation. And listen, I think obviously there are a lot of punchlines to come out of this, and some of the stories, it's so unbelievable you have to laugh. I think the DePaul one for me was, it's so ridiculous. A guy is on the phone at halftime, or not even at halftime, in the middle of the game, texting a guy that he's fixing a game with. And that is just unbelievable to me. But it's so crazy and ridiculous. You sometimes laugh, but it's a very serious thing for the NCAA, and they got to figure this out, because if this happens again, I mean, you've already lost a lot of credibility and trust, not just in your players for having a fair, respectful game. You lost trust in your referees. And we know that a lot of referee hate and kind of just yelling at the referees is happening in every single game now. So now referees are at a minimum, because no one wants to grow up to be a referee and just get yelled at for the rest of the game, right? It's just a trickle-down effect that needs to be nipped in the bud. But I don't know how much of this bleeding you can stop if you're the NCAA, man. It's bad.
Yeah, and then I'll ask you one final question, and then we'll get everybody back to the regularly scheduled programming here today. But the next two games, ironically, for Duquesne, Saturday, January 17th, 12:30 p.m. at Fordham, and then Tuesday, January 20th, in the UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse, St. Louis makes the trip to Pittsburgh. Those are the exact same situations from 2024 when this all went down, the games involving Duquesne. Jack, first question. One, do you think that any of this will spill over into those games, or do you think that with the transfer portal and so many guys being gone now, that it might not impact the current players in the current game? And two, what kind of discipline do you think either the NCAA or A10 is going to give to St. Louis, Fordham, or any other Atlantic 10 team that was possibly involved in this scandal?
So I do believe that this gets tricky because Fordham and St. Louis do have new head coaches. Since it happened, those head coaches have been fired. Mike Magpeo, by the way, great guy. He is now the head coach of Fordham, and Salou has another head coach as well. So you can't really directly fine or suspend the head coaches involved in this. And the transfer portal, you made a good point with that. There's really, these guys that were involved in it are no longer at those programs. So I think that you could do something with St. Louis, like school as a whole and maybe the athletics department, I think they might end up getting fined. But as for Duquesne versus these two teams in the next week, I don't think it ends up mattering affect the game. I think it just comes as a funny kind of end note or footnote to these games that, hey, listen, Duquesne played these two teams twice in the same week, and those two times the other team was gambling, using fixers to bet on games, and it's happening again. I don't think it's going to happen this week, but clearly I didn't think this would ever happen, so what do I know about what's going to happen in the future? But I think it's something that we can kind of laugh about in the sense that I don't think this will matter for the teams. But it's wild. It is a wild thing to look at. And when you told me that, I kind of had a light bulb moment. I'm like, oh my God. That's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gives, at least for that game on Tuesday, it could give some bulletin board more material to the Duquesne student section. If they want to go after St. Louis a little bit, they've got some.
And that's going to be a
they've
big
got
game
some
too.
material. That's a big game. St. Louis very strong this year. Obviously, they weren't strong when they were rigging games. Very strong this year.
No.
That's so. As of what we know right now, Thursday, January 15th, it's about 1:10 p.m. Eastern time. This is what we know. If you would like to stay up to date, you can follow Jack on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
What's your
On Twitter at Jack on the call. I'll be continuing to monitor this throughout the rest of the day, guys.
So follow Jack there to keep up to date with everything that's going on. You can also check out A10 Talk where Jack writes for. I'm sure that you guys will have some content coming out about this.
For sure.
But now we're going to send it back to you guys in the studio. And that was some good breaking news there. A huge story across the NCAA. We'll keep you updated if anything else more comes out. But more drama in the NCAA. Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss plans to sue the NCAA for a waiver for a 6th year of eligibility, which was denied on Friday, January 9th. His attorney, Tom Mars, confirmed to ESPN's Pete Thamel on Sunday, January 11th. Mars confirmed to ESPN that he and noted Mississippi trial lawyer William Liston have worked most of the weekend preparing a complaint for a preliminary and a permanent injunction on behalf of Trinidad Chambliss. In a statement, Mars said, "We expect the lawsuit to be far more detailed and documented than other eligibility lawsuits that have been filed in the past years." He added, "Therefore, considerable work needs to be done before we'll have prepared to seek an injunction that will allow Trinidad to play next season. Unless the NCAA appeals committee overturns the denial of the waiver before then, we currently anticipate filing a lawsuit in Mississippi State Court toward the end of the week. In the meantime, we won't have any further comment." The NCAA's decision to deny Chambliss' hardship waiver followed a previous verbal denial in December. However, Ole Miss can still appeal the decision. The 23-year-old quarterback and Ole Miss reportedly reached a new deal that would allow him to return to the program pending the waiver approval early this week. The former Division II Ferris State transfer led the Rebels to a program-best 13-2 record and an appearance in the college football playoff semifinal before being eliminated by the Miami Hurricanes in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. The redshirt senior took over for injured starter Austin Simmons during Ole Miss' third game of the season and threw for 3,600 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, while also recording 520 yards and 8 touchdowns on 128 rushing attempts. Having been named the SEC Newcomer of the Year and placing 8th in the Heisman Trophy voting. The decision made by Chambliss to stay at Ole Miss, if approved by the NCAA, came after speculation that he could follow former head coach Lane Kiffin and offensive coordinator Charlie Weiss Jr. to LSU next season. 1 point was all that separated two Philadelphia Catholic League powerhouses Friday night in Northeast Philly. This is where we head for our PA Sports Update. Father Judge picked up a significant 69-68 home win over Roman Catholic on Friday night, highlighted by a buzzer-beating three-pointer from senior guard Rocco Westfield. Westfield finished the game with 21 points and 5 three-pointers, including the game winner. The closing stretch featured multiple lead changes at the foul line, where Roman Roman's Samaj Robinson hit 3 free throws in the final 8 seconds to give the Kalites a 68-66 lead. But with no timeouts remaining, Father Judge advanced the ball quickly before Westfield's game-winning shot. The result continued Father Judge's recent success against Roman Catholic, adding the regular season victories and last year's PCL and PA 6A state championship wins. Westfield, a Merrimack commit, is in his first season as the primary point guard after the graduation of All-State guard Kavir Kennedy. His move to the lead guard role has shifted some of his focus from scoring to facilitating for a deep Crusaders roster, including Temple commit Derek Morton Rivera and 6'7" forward Jeremiah Al-Jadid. Morton Rivera scored 19 points and sparked a key third-quarter run, while Al-Jadid added 16 in the win. Roman Catholic was led by VCU commit Sammy Jackson and LaSalle commit R.J. Smith, who combined for 33 points and helped Roman control the tempo for much of the game. Additionally, contributions came from forwards Bryce Presley and Aljai Bay Moore, who were active on the interior on both ends of the floor. The victory for Judge over Roman is viewed within the program as a potential turning point, signaling a return to the form that carried the last year's team through the league and state titles. Let's now check out the video of the game-winning shot, courtesy of Archive 215 on YouTube.
Oh, miss. Go. Come on, man.
What a shot, what a reaction from the crowd. That's Philly high school hoops for you. And for today's Duquesne Sports Update, we'll be checking on the Duquesne basketball teams as the Atlantic 10 season ramps up. Duquesne men's basketball snapped a 3-game losing streak on Saturday with a 74-63 win over Fordham at Rose Hill Gym in the Bronx. The Dukes improved to a 10-8 overall record and 2-3 in Atlantic 10 play. Duquesne never trailed in this one, opening up with a 20-7 lead in the first 9 minutes and taking a 30-27 lead in the halftime. A key 8-0 run late in the second half pushed the margin back to double digits at 55-43, highlighted by junior guard Jimmy Williams scoring in transition and layups from John Hughley IV and Cam Crawford. The Dukes defense set the tone, holding Fordham to 35.7 points shooting from the field and just 14.3% from 3. Williams led all scorers with 19 points, including 14 in the second, while adding 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal on 7 of 12 shooting. Crawford contributed 16 points on 6 of 9 shooting, hitting 4 of 6 beyond the arc for his first double-digit performance in league play. Terrence Ginyard also contributed in this one, tallying 11 points, a career high 9 assists, and a new personal best with 6 steals. As a team, Duquesne shot 45% from the floor and 41% from 3. The Dukes are now 7-2 this season, hitting at least 10 threes and 8-1 when Ginyard records 6 or more assists. Duquesne returns home next to face ranked St. Louis tonight, with tip-off scheduled for 7 p.m. in the UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse. While the men's team returns to the win column, the women's team stayed far from it. On January 7th, Duquesne women's basketball fell 46-38 to St. Bonaventure at the UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse, dropping to 7-8 overall and 0-4 in Atlantic 10 play. The Dukes led 22-15 at the halftime after forcing 5 early turnovers and getting 11 points from freshman guard Alexis Bordas, but were outscored 31-16 after the break as the Bonnies used an 11-5 third-quarter run and a fourth-quarter surge to take control. Duquesne shot just 23.6% from the field and 14% from 3 with 21 turnovers. Following this game, a disappointed coach Dan Burt said, "I'm rarely at a loss for words at any time in my life, whether it's wins, losses, or in my personal life, and I'm really kind of at a loss for words right now with this team." Things didn't get much better in the next game as Duquesne blew a fourth quarter lead on the road against VCU. After what Coach Dan Burt thought was a good few practices, Duquesne welcomed the struggling George Washington to the Cooper Fieldhouse. George Washington used a big second-half run to beat Duquesne 59-45. Trailing just 18-14 at halftime, Duquesne saw the Revolutionaries open the third quarter on a 12-3 burst, hitting 4 straight threes to take control and never relinquish the lead. Freshman guard Alexis Bordas led the Ducks with 20 points the second straight game. At multiple points in the game, Bordas was the only one moving on the floor offensively, with her teammates standing around and watching. Following the game, an extremely disappointed Coach Dan Burt said, "That was an incredibly poor performance from everyone within our program, from coaches, the head coach, to the coaching staff, to the players. An incredibly poor performance by all of us. And you know, we're probably what you would consider a broken team at this point." Coach Burt continued saying, "What's our identity? We're not very smart with the ball. We don't value the basketball. We as coaches don't put them in a position to have more effective ways of scoring the basketball. That's on me. You know, we continue to turn the ball over at a rate where we just don't value it." Burt continued saying, "How many balls did we have slipping out of our hands? I mean, it's literally the definition of butterfingers. Not just one or two of our players, but multiple players. The ball just slipping out of our hands. I don't have an answer for that." Following these games couldn't possibly get worse. On Sunday, the Dukes made the trip up to Rhode Island for a matchup with the number 1 team in the A-10. Rhode Island handed Duquesne's women's basketball team a 70-50 defeat Sunday afternoon, extending the Dukes' 7-11 overall and 0-7 in Atlantic 10 conference play. Duquesne led 15-13 after just one quarter and trailed 26-23 at halftime, behind early threes from Toussaint and Mackenzie Blackford, but the Rams ramped up the defensive pressure in the second half, forcing 12 turnovers, including 10 in the third, to fuel the game-breaking run. Blackford paced Duquesne with 11 three-pointers, while Saint added 9 points and 6 boards. The loss on the scoreboard was one thing, but the loss of freshman phenom Alexis Bordas is really the only thing that matters in this game. In the third quarter, Bordas suffered an ugly ankle injury that sidelined her for the rest of the game, and a timeline for her return is unknown. Duquesne will look to end the losing streak on Wednesday against Dayton in the Cooper Fieldhouse starting at 6 p.m. The Mike Tomlin era of Pittsburgh Steelers football is officially over. 19 seasons and 1 Super Bowl later, the 53-year-old head coach stepped down from the organization. They will now search for their 4th head coach since 1969. This is where we head for our PA Sports Update. Pro Sport Date. As former players and staff members react to the shocking development, and the organization is quickly getting ready to work. While naming a new head coach is a top priority, the Steelers also have to consider one other aspect down the line. Tomlin's coaching rights still belong to the Steelers, meaning if Tomlin takes another NFL job before his current contract expires at the end of 2027, the organization can seek compensation. That means we could be looking at one of the most infrequently seen moves in the NFL, a coach trade. The last one came when the New Orleans Saints acquired multiple draft picks from the Denver Broncos for Sean Payton. The Steelers could be next, but what type of return could we expect if the Tomlin trade comes to fruition? There have been just 5 NFL coaching trades involving coaches since 2000. The last one came in 2023, and it cost the Broncos a third-round pick to acquire Payton from the Saints. Before the Payton trade, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers parted with a 6th-round pick and to bring Bruce Arians over from the Arizona Cardinals. Though these trades were most recent, 2 other huge head coaching trades kicked off the early 2000s and might provide a hint on what Tomlin's trade market could be. The New York Jets acquired a 1st and 4th round pick from the New England Patriots for Bill Belichick in 2000, and John Gruden was traded from the Oakland Raiders to the Buccaneers for 2 first-round picks and $8 million. Given Tomlin's 19 years of head coaching experience and a Super Bowl win, the going rate has to be at least a first-round pick plus an additional asset. There is one way around this situation for Tomlin and other teams. Tomlin is under contract through the end of the 2020 season, but if he waits to return until after those NFL campaigns, he'll be a coaching free agent. Well, that requires him to skip the next 2 seasons. That might be not as far-fetched as originally thought. The growing buzz is that Tomlin is pursued for television roles, which could occupy his time over the next 2 years as he waits for the right head coaching opportunity. We are now joined by Kenai Williams from the East Stroudsburg men's basketball team. Kenai played his high school basketball at Springside Chestnut Hill Academy in Philadelphia. During his 4 years, he earned all-league honors multiple times while collecting offers from multiple college programs and scoring over 1,000 career points. Now at East Stroudsburg, the freshman is quickly making a name for himself, averaging 9.6 points per game and making the game-winning layup to push his team past Shepherd at the last second. Let's now take a look at that game-winning layup.
Williams with it. Underneath to the baseline. Lays it in with 1.6 left. They do not have a timeout, so they cannot call one here. They have to go 94 feet. Wordlaw half court for the win. No, and the Warriors are going to hold on and win it on the Kenai Williams layup with 1 second left.
Shepherd was looking for the push-off. The call doesn't come. Let's take a look. Oh, yeah.
All right, and we are now joined by Kenai Williams of the East Stroudsburg men's basketball team. Kenai, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Brendan Flato. How you doing?
Doing pretty well. So my first question here, how did you first get introduced to basketball, and when did you realize it was a sport that you wanted to pursue at a high level?
So I got introduced to basketball by my dad at the age of 5, and I played for some team called the North Philly Blackhawks. They had a little, I think it was either a 7 and under or a 5 and under league that I was playing in. And I kind of enjoyed it a little bit, especially with the people I was around. I kind of fell in love with it. But I'm going to be honest, I really didn't start taking basketball serious probably till high school. And that's when I kind of realized freshman year I actually could be good at basketball and kind of go far with it.
What's a day in the life of a college basketball player look like when you're in season?
So in a day of life as a college athlete, depending on whether you want to kind of chill because you're in the season. But right now I kind of work out either an hour or 2 hours before practice, try to get some shots up. And then you kind of have a 2.5 hour, 3.5 hour practice with a lift. And then depending on how your afternoon feel, some people either work out again or you'll just take the day off.
Is it for you personally, balancing schoolwork and athletics, is it any different or more difficult than it was in high school?
So going to SCH, I don't know if it's the same for other people, but I always say going to SCH definitely made college easier. And I kind of can flow with it a little bit. SCH kind of teach you the balance of hard work and basketball. So definitely was easier coming here and just getting adjusted to it.
Yeah. And then back to on-the-court questions. How would you describe your style of play, and how do you think it sets you apart on the court?
So my style of play is kind of fast, but control fast a little bit. So the reason why it kind of make me good at basketball is because it may seem like I'm moving fast in the game, but the speed I move at, I kind of a slow down pace where I'm in control as well when I'm, running offense. And it's an advantage because, your defender is you can use your speed sometimes, but when the defender is going too fast, I think slowing down kind of helps you as well. And I kind of learned that a little bit in high school, that playing at my own pace is better than just trying to just go fast and quick and all that.
You played multiple sports growing up. Do you think any of those helped you with basketball?
I play a little bit of football, and I play baseball. I for sure think baseball helped a little bit, definitely with my hand-eye coordination, being able to adjust as fast as a pitch can. And if you can adjust as fast as a pitch, I kind of feel like basketball helped that because you're able to adjust when it comes to a defender guarding you.
Are there any coaches that you had throughout your career that have left a big impact on you? And if so, what set them apart?
I'm going to give it to my AAU coach that been coaching me since I was a freshman. He's from New York. He was currently coaching at UMass, assistant coach, but now he is the coach at the George School. His name is Chris Harris. I think he kind of gave me that confidence in just knowing that whenever I'm on the court, you can always go. And I think sometimes with players, like if you don't have that confidence, it make the sport harder than it is because you're just going into the game thinking like, hopefully I can do the best I can. He kind of put that picture on me like, no, I know I can do the best I can, and I know I'm the best player on the court. So that mindset there kind of like paved my basketball journey farther than what I've ever pictured it.
And then you've played a lot of basketball games throughout your life. Walk us through your pregame routine.
So my pregame routine right now is I watch a little bit of girls game because the way our schedule, so the girls play like 2 hours before us. So I would watch the girls game for like good 5 to 10 minutes. Then I'll either do heat on my ankle or on my body just to get a little warm before we even get to the stretching part. And then I'll stretch on my own. Then we'll stretch as a team. And then that's when it's like kind of almost that game time and I'm just locked in listening to music.
Are there any pregame rituals or superstitions that you do before every game?
I think I could say one is like the music I listen to. I kind of try to keep it consistent when like the same playlist kind of. But high school, I'm not gonna lie, I can't do it here because we wear the same basketball sneaks. But my superstition definitely was like if I played a bad game in a basketball sneak, like I would stay away at least 3 games and then try it again. I would just stick to sneaks I play good in. Like that was my stitches, but the way we do it, like you gotta wear home and away. So it's like now I just gotta go with it. So I don't really got no more. That was my only one for real.
Yeah. And then you scored 1,000 points in high school. How did it feel to accomplish that?
I'm not gonna lie, to be honest with you, my freshman year, if you asked me I was gonna score 1,000 points, or if I could, I'd probably say maybe not. But just that journey of, from freshman to senior year, it was just fun and just, gaining that confidence. Once I kind of scored 1,000 points, it was kind of like, all right, like I kind of understand this game a little more. I can see myself getting better. I can see myself staying consistent. I think that part right there of just scoring 1,000 points was like, you know what, for you to do that and kind of go over 1,000 points too, and passing my brother, I can say that too. Passing my brother on 1,000 points kind of definitely gave me some confidence, just believing in myself.
I didn't know that. So you scored more points than your brother?
Yeah, I think I had 1247, and my brother had like 1180, somewhere around the number.
So you've got the bragging rights.
Yeah, I definitely got the bragging rights.
You have a lot of high school teammates that you played with in high school, and probably AAU too, who are now playing in college. I know you played against Cam Waters. Have you played against any other former high school teammates or AAU teammates? And what's that experience like? So
I did play against Cam, even though Cam was out, but I did play against the school. I also played against Cam Burns too. We played Chestnut Hill earlier in the season at a home game. That kind of went on a little bit. And also, and I played against Ron, but Ron didn't play. But just still seeing them and just being around them, you still kind of get the feel that you kind of SEH a little bit. And I still kind of bring that fun into it. Just knowing that what we did is kind of like that was a little important too. But definitely played I think it was like three of them so far.
Yeah, you mentioned Ron. They're in your guys' conference, right?
Yeah, Ron is in our conference, and Cam and the 2 Cams, we just always played them early in the season.
Yeah. Is that a big rivalry, you guys in Millersville?
I wish it would, but it ain't none bigger than Westchester. All we do is talk about Westchester when it comes to the rivalry.
That's the big one?
Yeah, that's the big one. It's like we can't lose to them.
What's the biggest difference you've noticed between high school and college basketball?
I'd say the biggest difference definitely the execution and just harping on what is good shots and bad shots. 'Cause I think when high school you kind of can afford taking bad shots. It kind of come with it. You're young, but once you get to college, they kind of limit that. Your options of certain shots is not the same, and you always got to get a shot in the flow of the offense. If it's not in the flow of the offense, they're kind of pay attention to that, and it's kind of what's the difference?
During your high school career, you hit a half-court buzzer beater to beat Malvern Prep, and this year you hit a last-second layup to beat Shepherd. Which one of those shots was more memorable for you?
See, that's the funny part because when I did the shot against Shepherd, I was also saying that I hit a way crazier shot in high school. But I'm gonna that's hard. That's a good question. because I wanted to go to high school because it was like a crazy shot. But I'm gonna have to go to college just because it was my first and ever like buzzer beater. So that memory is always gonna stick with me. I'm not gonna lie. That
Okay.
memory is always gonna stick with me.
And then you had a lot of offers coming out of high school. What ultimately led you to choose East Stroudsburg, and what made that program feel like the right fit for you?
So when I went on a visit, I was either going to do East Stroudsburg or Stack, which is St. Thomas Aquinas. And just going on a visit, talking to the coaches, the environment, I kind of was like, you know how you can see yourself somewhere? Like I saw myself like I can be at East Stroudsburg. And then the coaches always like was talking to me since I was a sophomore. So I kind of knew it was like they wanted me. Like I felt wanted and not just, just needed a player. Like it felt wanted when I was talking to them.
There's a lot of talk right now about the recruiting process for high schoolers with NIL and the transfer portal. What was the process like for you personally?
It was definitely tough. It was tough because like you said, just talking to certain coaches that I feel like I was the schools that I wanted to go to, they always aim at you saying that, instead of getting a young player, we could always get an older kid. So I always say I'm happy I'm in college now because that high school process was difficult. And I kind of always tell high schoolers now, like, it's hard, it's way harder, and you need to go extra harder just because even if you feel like you should be somewhere, that's not what the coach is saying. The coach is saying that we can always take somebody older in the transfer portal, that's just like his own name for himself. And being able to pay players too is like kind of changed the game a little bit. So definitely for high schoolers, like it was tough, but definitely like a motivational booster, knowing that you have to work as hard just to get to the scene where you want to be at.
You mentioned what you would tell younger basketball players. My next question is, if you could send a message to a younger basketball player who has the goal of playing in college, whether it's like a youth basketball player or a high school basketball player, what would you tell them?
I would tell them like you have to work 10 times as harder if you think. Like, dude, you think you're working hard now? Like, that's not true because being in college now, you kind of see the difference mentally and physically. You got to be ready. So if a coach think you're not physically ready, then they're also gonna think you're not mentally ready. And the mental part comes from the confidence too. So staying confident and just working as hard as you can. Just knowing that certain stuff is never enough. Like you always gotta do more than what you think, just because somebody else can be working as much as harder as you. And it's about 10,000, 20,000 kids that's also doing the same thing.
In your opinion, for road games where you have to travel, is it easier to play in home games or road games where you have to travel? And then my follow-up question to that is, what's a road game like? Like, what's the day in the life when you guys have to travel somewhere?
So for the first question, I'm not gonna. What our record tell us right now is that we're better away than home, which is weird. And I don't know if that just come with the crowd and just being at home and knowing you have to win. The away games, we kind of just put our point like we gotta just the same way the team and against us would say when we're at home. It's like we gotta beat them while we're at home. So I would definitely say the home games is tougher. It's crazy to say, but definitely tougher to win just cause it's just all the momentum and everybody watching y'all. And for the away games, so the way our go, depending on how far it is, like if the trip is 3 hours less or 3 hours more, 3 hours more, we would kind of go in a hotel, stay the night before, watch film, wake up, watch film again, probably practice a little bit, didn't go to the game. But if trip is about 3 hours or less, we would travel the same day, stop the middle of the road to get a pregame meal. Pregame meal, usually chicken parm pasta. Definitely chicken parm pasta every meal, but yeah, it was like that, chicken parm pasta. Then we continue to go back to the game. We'll watch the girls, and then yeah, we'll play. So that's kind of how it is if the trip is not as far as the other teams we play.
The reason I asked that is I've been in some of the press conferences with the Duquesne basketball team, and their head coach Drew just actually mentioned that for whatever reason they think that they play better on the road. So I was wondering if that was consistent across college basketball. And you gave a pretty similar answer to what he said.
Yeah, yeah, I just say is just because like you're kind of trying to walk in a place and try out tough them, and then I think that's kind of everybody mindset when you're on a away game is like just out tough them at their own house. That's how you make them mentally weak is when you out tough somebody at their own home spot. So I think that would be like a consistent answer. Just because away game you're just thinking less. You're not really worrying about the crowd. You're just trying to prove a point when it comes to away games.
And my final question, we ask this one every week to everybody we interview. What's your go-to hype song before a game?
Woo! Ooh, that's a good question. All right. So I got a couple. I'm gonna just name a couple artists that I listen to
Okay.
consistently. I'm gonna go. Everybody know. I'm gonna go. There's an NBA young boy. I'm gonna go with that answer.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. I did add some old school to my pregame music, just calm me down a little bit, because I don't want to be too hype. I kind of like the way I play. I kind of play calm and patient. So I kind of also try to listen to music that keep me calm and patient, so I don't be overthinking it or trying to overdo anything. But definitely some old school I throw in there. Then I'm gonna throw in some Rag Baby. I don't know if you ever heard of him, Rag Baby. I listen to G Herbo. So artists like those, but I also try to throw some calm music in there too, just so I don't, over try to do too much.
The leader right now on our leaderboards is Dreams and Nightmares by Meek Mill. That's been said, I think, by 3 of the interviews.
Oh yeah, that's not a bad song. That's not a bad song.
We had Kyle Cameron on last week, and that's what his was.
Dreams and Nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to shout out to the football team too for getting an Interact chip. That was crazy.
The SCH football team Interact champion over Malvern Prep.
That shocked me, but I'm glad that they could bring a chip while we wasn't there. Well, I was trying to do in basketball, but they did it in football. So congrats to them.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Best of luck throughout the rest of the college season and the rest of your college career. It was good to talk to you.
Appreciate it, B-Flay, for having me. Anytime, man. Anytime.
All right, and that will do it here for today's edition of the Game Time Sports Show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we hope you tune in again next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, on the Game Time Sports YouTube channel, Duquesne Student TV, and Duquesne Student Radio. Have a great night, everybody.